Anti-mandate protesters in New York City shut down the Barclay Center during a Brooklyn Nets game in support of Kyrie Irving demanding that he be allowed to play. Let's talk about it. So at this point, most of you all have probably already heard that Kyrie Irving has been removed from all team activities with the Brooklyn Nets because he says that he is not going to get vaccinated. He also doesn't knock anybody for their choice to be vaccinated. But he said that this is a bigger fight than just vaccinated or unvaccinated. He believes that as a member of the Players Association, as an executive member, recently elected, by the way, that he has a responsibility to be a voice for the voiceless, referring to the players with less of a platform than Kyrie may have, so that they know that they should always be entitled to a choice. Because of the Brooklyn Nets and, of course, ultimately the NBA's unwillingness to allow Kyrie to play in the capacity he did before, there were some protesters that came and shut down the Barclay Center during the Brooklyn Nets basketball game the other night. Let's go ahead and check out this Yahoo Sports article. I think did a pretty decent job covering this. Objectively, it says Kyrie was neither seen nor heard at the Brooklyn Nets home opener on Sunday, but the effects of his decision to refuse to get vaccinated were on full display. Ahead of the game, a large group of vaccine mandate protesters appeared outside the Barclays Center, demanding Kyrie Irving be allowed to play NBA games again. Even though he is barred from only Nets home games due to New York protocols, the Nets have announced Irving will not play until the situation is resolved. Now, once you kind of put two and two together in that regard, as far as only being barred from home games, you might be able to understand not just the outrage of those who are anti-mandate, but NBA fans in general, like myself. See, y'all don't make fun of me. I'm a Knicks fan. We're doing okay right now. Don't judge us. It's been a long time. We had to let James Dolan get out the way so we could flourish. But the Knicks play in Madison Square Garden, which is about Midtown Manhattan. The Barclays Center is in Brooklyn, hence Brooklyn Nets, right? Now, although Kyrie Irving cannot play in his home games, he can play in the Knicks home games. And by the way, the Nets play the Knicks 4 times, 2 times will be in Madison Square Garden. Now, some people might ask why that is, because that sounds a little bit off, right? Because now you're probably wondering, oh, well, hold up, I don't get it. You heard what I said. And the rule is because there is this level of amnesty that a player is granted if they are unvaccinated but are playing in an away game. Because you cannot hold, well, at least according to their rules that seem to be changing every day, you cannot hold a player from an away state to the standards of another team's home state. The only exception to this seems to be Toronto, which they have a different country and have different rules, and that's a whole different thing. But another outspoken gentleman has been Bradley Beal, or for the Wizards, or Jonathan Isaac for the Magic. If either of them went to San Francisco to play the Golden State Warriors, both of them would be okay to play, even though they are unvaccinated. But Kyrie can't actually play in his own home games, despite the fact that if he played in Madison Square Garden, which is literally down the street, he'd be allowed to play. So you can see why some people might have some issues with the inconsistency here. You really have to wonder, what exactly are the goals? Because it can't be to specifically stop the spreading of COVID. It can't be that. I mean, it could be, I guess, but it doesn't seem like this is the way to go about achieving that goal, if that truly is their goals. Let's go ahead and continue the article. So it said they were wearing shirts reading slogans such as "Stand with Kyrie" and chanting "Let Kyrie play." The crowd soon turned aggressive and stormed the barricades outside the arena. Yo, my man's in the vest. He look like he just going through it. You see him running around frantically. Oh my God. He look like, I don't know what to do. Anyway, Newsday's Barbara Barker reported the group included supporters of President Donald Trump and people with Black Lives Matter signs, while another source claimed to hear a reference to January 6th storming of the U.S. Capitol. Now, I should be very clear that it wasn't just people with Black Lives Matter signs, and I don't like the way that person, whoever reporting this, is just reporting exactly how it was reported in the other article. But I need to be very clear. Because I know this, because I went to New York to interview these people. BLM, the New York chapter, has completely separated from BLM, the national chapter. They've had a number of grievances with the national chapter, but the support of the vaccine mandate, despite the fact that it disproportionately hurts black people, is the number one reason that they decided to separate at this juncture. There were black people at the protests. It wasn't just black people holding up BLM signs. And once again, this is important to understand the distinction between a national level organization, a 501c4 organization, just, tap dancing for their next political candidate, and local chapters who do have a mind of their own, and when they see an issue, decide to separate and do the right thing on behalf of the people they represent, which you're going to be seeing a lot more of, I imagine, over the next couple of years. So the situation ended up getting ugly enough that the Nets shut down admission into the Barclay Center while trying to keep protesters out of the building, per Barker. The lockdown was ultimately brief, with Newsday's Greg Logan reporting minutes later that the arena personnel and police got the situation under control and fans with tickets were admitted again. So, like I said, there are a lot of people who are rightfully frustrated and confused for the reasons I mentioned before, but also because I know this might be a question for those of you who may be a little bit more well versed in the politics of the NBA. The Players Association did not agree to a mandate that was deliberate. If you heard Draymond Green, for example, LeBron James, who were both vaccinated, they supported Kyrie's stance because Kyrie's stance is actually the stance of the Players Association. What we saw, however, was cities like New York and San Francisco and potentially LA after November, they circumvented the Players Association. And instead of the NBA flexing its muscles like it has done in the past in order to protect the sanctity of the collective bargaining agreement and the agreement that has reached with the Players Association, they allowed these cities to violate the rights, previously agreed upon rights, of these NBA players like Kyrie Irving, John Isaac, Bradley Beal, and others. So, as a recently elected executive member of the Players Association executive board, Kyrie's literally just doing his job at this point in a way others are, refusing to do, perhaps because of the brand aspect. Now, it wouldn't be quite right if I showed you an objective story without the spin, because somebody always has to spin it. So let's go ahead and check out this nonsense. Loud and wrong. Brooklyn Nets lock down Barclay Center after protests in support of Kyrie gets routed. If Kyrie needed any indication that he is on the wrong side of history regarding COVID-19 vaccine mandates, what happened at the Barclays Center on Sunday, October 24th, was it. And it goes on to actually almost quote verbatim what the Yahoo article says. And as you probably guessed, that would mean that they also include the part where it's both Trump supporters and BLM supporters. So somehow, this got spun from because this is what my take would be, there are supporters from all sides of the political spectrum that seem to be aligned with what Kyrie has said or the stance that he has taken. Now, it has not been lost upon me, people, that there were a lot of Donald Trump supporters, including Donald Trump himself, that was telling basketball players not even 2 years ago, 3 years ago, you need to shut up and dribble. Laura Ingraham. I am not silly. I know a lot of them are now saying otherwise because they agree with him. But they're agreeing with him on the same grounds that BLM supporters who broke away from the corrupt national level BLM are also agreeing with Kyrie. I am one of those people who are pragmatists above all else, and if I'm advocating for a particular issue, I don't really care why other people agree with me personally, because I know why I advocate for it. I frame it in such a way that it is very well understood why I advocate for it. And if other people want to use their manpower and resources to help push this issue, then I'm okay with that. We can disagree on something else later. But I would have framed it as such where it's like, clearly there are people from different political backgrounds on the same side here. This, at the bare minimum, is an interesting development at the bare minimum, right? You don't have to weigh in on one way or the other, but instead you get to spin at the very beginning of the story that because there were some people who had Trump signs, therefore Kyrie's on the wrong side of history. And like, y'all know how I feel. These are the same people who are telling y'all to go vote for Joe Biden. I cannot stress this enough, people. You need to stop worrying about those people with Trump signs. Start worrying about those Democrats in the House, the Senate, and the executive branch screwing you over every day while telling you there isn't enough. Maybe you should worry about those people. Maybe stop worrying about the people who are fighting against authoritarian mandates, not even based in sound science. And instead, focus on the people who denied the average citizen drugs like ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, and zinc, drugs that we now know after years of research and months of recent research save lives. Ask Pfizer, because they're literally creating the same thing as ivermectin, just calling it something else, and probably going to charge more for it. Maybe you should worry about those people instead of attacking people for what shirt they're wearing or what president they voted for last term. That's just my humble opinion. Now, what makes this situation all the more frustrating if you're an NBA fan like myself is this. A couple days ago, the NBA came out with their top 75 list of best players of all time for their 75th anniversary. It says here, as you can see, NBA supposedly removed Kyrie from the top 75 greatest player list. And Twitter users reveal they actually have proof of this. Let's go check out some of that proof. As you can see here, Brooklyn News Media, it was already set. This Kyrie Irving update. Huge conspiracy theory. If you Google Nets NBA 75, the first result is a page from the Nets website with a link to a video. The page doesn't work. Was Kyrie in a draft version of the list, then pulled due to this season, referring to Kyrie's stance? They show the picture. If it ever lets me zoom out. There we go. So that's pretty crazy, guys. It's pretty damning evidence right here. If you click on the link, this would end up happening. So it looks like Kyrie Irving was going to be top 75, but was removed by the NBA. Wow. Y'all see this? Has all the 75 players. Top 75 players. So now Kyrie's stance on bodily autonomy, Kyrie's willingness to uphold the agreement or lack thereof, and the integrity of the Players Association and the collective bargaining agreement, Now that is being reflected in his ranks as a skillful basketball player who shot the dagger of all daggers to help bring home the Cavaliers' very first ever NBA championship. We damn near averaged like 35 points a game in that finals. I mean, in my opinion, he should have been the finals MVP, but that's neither here nor there. Rookie of the year, multiple time All-Star. You know this. You know they used to do other players like this too. Kareem didn't get his due to the degree he should have after being such a staunch advocate for Muhammad Ali and black people in general, and also changing his name from Lou Alcindor to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I want to say Abdul Raif, if I'm not mistaken, from the Lakers, basically just didn't get a contract again. Just didn't get, even though he was balling. Oscar Robertson. A lot of you probably, if you're younger, probably haven't even heard Oscar Robertson's name until Westbrook averaged that triple-double and did something that only Oscar Robertson had done. The reason you didn't hear Oscar Robertson's name even being brought up in the top 10, which is insane when you go look at his resume, was because Oscar Robertson was on the forefront of advocacy for making sure that players were paid evenly, even if it may, or paid what they were valued, I should say, paid what they deserved. Even if it made ownership uncomfortable, even if it made white people uncomfortable, given the time Oscar Robertson played it. Remember, he got his first ring with Kareem when they were on the Bucks together. So players that buck the system, that buck the status quo, tend to go through this. And if you're a good little soldier, or take Isaiah Thomas, right? Isaiah Thomas, just Michael Jordan didn't like him because he played Michael Jordan as hard as anybody else did. And don't get it twisted. It was the Pistons, this bad boy Pistons. So maybe they were a little bit more fervent in their Michael Jordan, just the way they used to demolish him when Dennis Rodman and all them were together. Like, maybe it's a little bit different, but because Michael Jordan was the status quo of the NBA, they needed to usher in a new era because Larry Bird and Magic were on the way out. They let Michael keep Isaiah Thomas off of the dream team, when Isaiah Thomas is the only player that went through, only top 25 player that went through Jordan, Larry, and Magic Johnson to get to an NBA championship. So this is somewhat of a norm, not only in the NBA, but in sports in general. And once people's career, at least the image of their career and the way that it's portrayed, begins to reflect narratives more so than their skill and what they contributed to their profession, well, now everybody should start paying attention. Because if they can change the narrative out in front of everybody when we all watch his career play out, imagine what they can do to you if you decide to stand up for your beliefs and uphold what you already agreed on. By the way, this isn't like Kyrie is taking some controversial stance. Kyrie is literally taking the stance of the NBA, which is that there are no mandates. Taking the stance of the Players Association, which is that there are no mandates for the players. This is a stance that has already been agreed on, and they're punishing him for it. So I'd like to know what your thoughts are about this. Like this video, share this video, leave a comment below. Don't forget to subscribe, but always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.